never needed to raise my voice to make room. No, I am there. The ones who shout the loudest have the least amount to share. I learned this from the winters in the rooms where men decide that the quietest presence at the table has the most inside. Silence is my language, the most fluent tongue I own. Silence is my message to a room full of the known. You fill the air with signal, I fill mine with space. And the man who understands silence controls the pace, controls the place. They ask me what I'm thinking when I haven't said a word. I think how much already have I let you think you've heard. Every pause is purposeful, every gap a door I hold. The man who learns to use the silence is the man who owns the cold. Silence is my language, the only one I need. Silence is the pressure that makes the room conceive. Oh, 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 oh. I have watched men nervous in the absence of my speech. I have watched them fill the quiet with exactly what I see. Their own admission, their own fear, their own need to be heard. And that is how you learn a room without saying a single word. Silence is my language, and I am fluent in the dark. Silence is my empire, and the quietest is the mark of a man who doesn't need it, the approval or the stage. Silence is the loudest thing on any given page. Oh, 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 oh. She poured my coffee without asking how I took it, After the second morning, she just knew. She never asked me where I'd been the night before. Just moved around the kitchen, quiet and true. She found the things I kept inside the lining of my coat. She put them back and never said a word. Some women run from what they find inside a man like me. She was the only one who stayed, and that I heard she knew what I was, and she stayed anyway. She knew what the nights cost, and she greeted every day. She never asked me to be something I was not. She just loved the broken parts of me that the rest of the world forgot. She knew what I was. I tried to build a wall between her and the work I did, pretend that there were two of me. She saw right through it. She said one night while I was leaving, come back in one piece. I said I always do. She said so far. I never deserved the way she looked at me, with full eyes and no accusation. I never deserved the grace of a woman who understood the complication. And I would burn every empire I built to have her back for one more and she stayed.
The night before as the longest kind of night. Not because anything has happened yet, but because everything is about to, and your body already knows it. I pressed my suit this evening, not from habit, from intention. Every crease a choice, every button a decision. I ate alone, slowly, the way you eat when you're not eating for hunger, but for the maintenance of something that needs to function at full capacity tomorrow. I read the same page 4 times, put the book down, poured a glass, and sat with what I know. The night before is its own kind of holy. When the work is done, and the work is done, the night before is the silence before the answer. When the question's been decided and the game's already won. I have been here before. Not this room, not this night, but this particular silence that comes when a man is finally ready and has nothing left to fear, because the fearing is finished. They will not see it coming, not because I've hidden, but because they stopped watching a long time ago. And that is their mistake, not mine. The night before is its own kind of holy. The preparation is the prayer. The night before is the last moment of nothing, before I'm everywhere. I turned the lights off at 11, slept without difficulty. A man who's ready for tomorrow has no argument with sleep.
Built our empires on the opposite sides of the same dark city. Started from the same hunger, ended in a different committee. I knew your name before you knew mine. That was by design. You studied the map of the territory. I studied the man behind the line. Now we're sitting at the same table, same drink, same room. Two kings who both know exactly how this ends. And too soon, two kings at the same table, two codes that cannot reconcile, two men who respect each other across an impossible mile. We built the same kind of empire with the same kind of blood and cost. Two kings at the same table, knowing one of us is already lost. I don't hate you, I want that said before whatever comes. I hate the mathematics of the situation, not what you've become. You're the version of me that took a different road at 22. And I'm the version you'd have been if certain things broke through. Two mirrors facing each other in a room with no escape. We both see the reflection, we both know what's at stake. Two kings at the same table, two codes that cannot reconcile. Two men who understand each other across an impossible mile. If we were different men in a different time, we might have built something worth seeing. But the city doesn't bend for sentiment, and neither do we. I respect you. That's why this is so cold. Two kings at the same table. Two kings at the same table. One city, one crown, one throne. Two men who built the same empire, both knowing this ends alone.
The street that built me had no name worth putting on the map. A strip of broken concrete where the promises fell flat. But every man who walked it learned a language none could write. The grammar of survival and the dialect of night. They talk about their education, I talk about mine too. Corner of the place where I learned everything I knew. The street that built me wasn't pretty, wasn't kind. It took the soft parts of a boy and left the iron behind. I don't go back often, can't undo what it has done. But everything I am today was started on that run. The street that built me. I watch the old men play their cards beneath the hanging lights. I watch the hungry ones decide what they were worth at night. I watch the ones who tried to leave and the ones who chose to stay. And I decided somewhere in between I'd build my own damn way. They gave me nothing for me, no diploma and no key, just the education of a place that didn't care for me. The street that built me wasn't pretty, wasn't kind. It took the soft parts of a boy and left the iron behind. I don't go back often, can't undo what it has done. But everything I am today was started on that run. I've stood in rooms with powerful men, and not one of them scared me, because every man I've ever met was softer than that street was to me. It didn't break me, it didn't take me, it made me exactly what they never saw coming. The street that built me wasn't pretty, wasn't kind. It took the soft in me and forged the iron behind. I walk with it, I carry it, I can't undo what's done. The street that built me made me every single one. Seven years is a number until it becomes your life. 7 years is a sentence until it becomes your knife that carves out everything that's soft and leaves the heart as grain. 7 years of who you were, becoming who remains. 7 years I counted ceilings, 7 years I learned the floor, 7 years I built a silence, 7 years and then one door. And what came through that door was not the man who went inside. 7 years don't just pass through you, 7 years decide. The men outside kept living, the world adjusted without me. I studied it through letters and what the absence of them told me. The ones who wrote in the beginning were not the ones who wrote at the end. 7 years is a test of contracts. Most of them, they bend. I don't ask for sympathy for what I did to earn the years. A man owns his decisions, including the ones that cost him here. But I'll tell you what the years gave back that no one talks about enough. They gave me the ability to sit still without going soft. Not angry, just true. 7 years in the dark, and I came out knowing how to see in it. 7 years I counted mornings, 7 years I learned myself, 7 years removed from comfort, 7 years the
greatest wealth of time spent with your own mind, until it stops fighting you. 7 years I paid the cost, and I came back renewed.
I walked into a room that didn't know my name. I sat at the table like I already made my claim. The men around me measured me the way they measure things, by where you came from, who you know, what your silence brings. I let them have their calculations, let them size me up. I've been the unknown quantity before, I know this cup. New territory, same man. Every room I enter is a new but equal chance. New territory, same code. I don't change the way I walk to fit somebody's role. I came here with nothing except everything I've earned. New territory, watch what happens when the new man learns. I didn't ask permission for the seat that I require. Didn't introduce myself through men they had admired. I made one deal, one clean deal, and let the deal speak. By the second week they knew my name, and by the third my week. Respect is not a thing you're given in a room like this. It accumulates with everything you don't dismiss. New territory, same man. Every room I enter is an equal playing chance. New territory, same code. The map is new, but everything I am I own and hold. The men who ran this ground before ran it on assumption that nobody new would walk in here with this level of preparation, of patience, of readiness, of not needing to be known. Let the work announce me. I'll silence set the tone. I am not here to take what's yours. I am here because this is mine. New territory, same man. The territory changes, I remain. New territory, same code. Every new room is just another road I own. New territory, new territory. I didn't celebrate when it began to fall. I made a cup of tea and read the morning papers. I noted what had happened, what the numbers showed, and poured a second cup for later. I have been waiting for this particular arithmetic for longer than most people keep a patience. And the satisfaction is exactly what I thought, but quieter, and nothing like elation. Watch it fall. Everything they built, watch it fall. Every stone and stilt. I don't need applause, I don't need to see it close. Watch it fall from the window of everything it cost. They overreached, that was the first mistake. The second was forgetting what they'd started. The third was building everything on what they'd taken from a man who never once in 7 years departed from the plan, from the patience, from the point. Yeah, and you don't destroy a man's empire by attacking it directly. You wait until the weight of it becomes the thing that ends it. Watch it fall. Everything they stole, watch it fall. Every page for all. I don't need the credit, I don't need the name on stone. Watch it fall from the window of everything I own. I feel no rage about this. The rage was used as fuel years ago. What I feel right now is something closer to an accountant looking at a final row of numbers that balances. Watch it fall, the architecture of a lie. I'm not at the door waiting, I'm not making a sound. Watch it fall from the window and let it settle in the ground. Put on my coat this morning with a different kind of weight. Said goodbye to every room and every promise running late. The photographs still on the wall, I left them where they stood Some things deserve to stay behind in the only life that's good. A man who's done what I have done don't get a clean exit. He gets a quiet morning and a coat, and that's about the size of it. One last coat, one last door, one last look at everything I said I'd die for. One last night of knowing who I was and what I'd been. One last coat on the back of a man the world will not see again. I left the keys on the counter by the coffee I won't drink. I stood beside the window for a moment just to think about the life that could have been if certain roads had turned, and whether I was leaving or just going where I'd earned. You don't mourn the life you lived, you only mourn the life you missed. And mine was never on the list. One last coat, one last door, one last look at everything I said I'd die for. One last night of knowing who I was and what I'd been. One last coat on the back of a man the world will not see again. I'm not running, I'm not hiding, I'm just done with the particular geometry of this particular life. Some men go out with fire, some go out with a name. I'm going out the back way, which is roughly how I came. One last coat, one last door, one last look at everything I bled and lived for. One morning without anyone to hold me to my past. One last coat on the back of a man who chose to leave at last. I remember your name, not the way that the wounded remember, not with anger, not with fire, just the way a man remembers a number he intends to call. I remember what you said and what you didn't say, and what your silence in that room cost me every single day. I remember your name, I remember the chair you sat in, I remember the hand you extended
while the other one was planning. I remember your name. Don't think that I forgot. Don't build your life too high on a foundation I have not. I remember your name. You moved across the city like a man who'd walked away clean. You told yourself the story where you're somewhere in between. Not guilty, not exactly, just surviving like we all do, but surviving on the grave of what you buried. That's on you. I remember your name. I remember the chair you sat in. I remember the hand you extended while the other one was planning. I remember your name. Don't think I forgot. I've just been building everything on the foundation of what's not. I don't need to explain what comes next. You already know what a man who remembers and says nothing has in store. I just wanted you to know that I remember. Your name. Patience never fails. I remember your name.
I have been silent for 60 years about the things that cost me sleep. I kept my mouth shut in the rooms where men decided what to keep. I watched them build their stories on the rubble of the truth, and I stayed quiet, God forgive me, from the day I lost my youth. 60 years of silence, that's a long time not to speak. 60 years of carrying what the honest call antique. I don't regret the living, I regret the things unsaid. 60 years of silence, son, follow someone else instead. Oh, I had a family that loved me, and a family they never knew. I had a life inside the daylight, and a life in darker hues. I convinced myself that keeping quiet was protecting everyone, but silence is a selfish thing. when it's the only thing you've done. 60 years of silence, that's a weight no man should own. 60 years of keeping every secret carved in stone. The things I never told her, the names I never said. 60 years of silence, son, don't end up here instead. I'm telling you this now, not because it saves me, but because you're standing where I stood at your age, and you still have the choice that I didn't take. Keep one person in this world you tell the truth to. Just one. Don't be like me. 60 years of silence, and I'm out of years to spare. 60 years of keeping all the weight that wasn't fair. I built a wall of nothing, and I called it discipline. 60 years of silence, son, don't let that be your hymn. You were the first man I admired, who wasn't just a fantasy. You had the way of reading rooms I wanted you to teach to me. I watched how you moved between the men who had the power and the door. I studied every choice you made. I wanted to become more. Then I started being more, and you became a different thing. And the lesson you taught best of all was what a threatened teacher brings. The teacher's sin is fear of what the student has become. The teacher's sin is burning what he spent his lifetime building from. You gave me every tool I have, and then you used them against me. The teacher's sin is teaching, son, and then becoming the enemy. I think about the afternoon you told them what I planned. I think about the calculation, how deliberate, how planned. You smiled at me 2 days before and called me your best work, then dismantled every structure I had built, deliberate and curt.
I don't know what you feared most, that I'd surpass or that I'd fail. Either way, the ending was the same. The teacher turned the nail. The teacher's sin is fear of what the student has become. The teacher's sin is burning everything the lessons had begun. I won't be angry here. You don't deserve my anger. You deserve something much worse, which is my absolute indifference. Everything you built in me, I used, just not for you. The teacher's sin is what he did. The student's response is this: I built a world from what you gave me, and you're not on the list.
They always told me reach the top and everything would change. I reached the top at 40 and the view was cold and strange. The men below me looked so small from where I now could see. But what I didn't understand, they couldn't see me. I built the room they all admired and sat inside alone. I filled it with the trophies of the battles I had won. I called the men who'd helped me there and poured them all a drink. They laughed and raised their glasses. None of them could see me sink. The view from the top is silence. The view from the top is space, where every room gets emptier and fewer know your face. You fight your way to the summit and stand there in the cold. The view from the top is everything except what you were told. My father never made it here. He fell before the climb. My mother lit a candle for the life I left behind. I wonder now in quiet what the lesser versions of me would think of this apartment and the silence and this fear. I have everything, and I've never been more alone in my life than standing here. What was all of this for? If there's nobody left at the door, top is silence that nobody warned me about. The view from the top is everything I worked for, and now I doubt.
I watched my father age inside a room that fear had built. He carried every decision like a lifetime full of guilt. His hands were always steady, but his eyes had learned to hide the cost of what he'd built for us and kept us all inside. He called me to his bedside in the winter of his reign and handed me the burden with a pride that looked like pain. The son inherits everything the father chose to bear, the weight of every promise made and every silent prayer. The throne was never golden, it was iron in disguise, and I became my father through my father's own demise. The son inherits. I wear his coat in winter when the business calls me out. I learned his way of listening, so I never have to shout. The men who served him bow to me, they think they see him still, and maybe that's the greatest gift, to carry forward his will. Some sons inherit money, some inherit names and land. I inherited a kingdom that required a steady hand. The son inherits everything the father chose to bear, the weight of every promise made and every silent prayer. The throne was never golden, it was iron in disguise, and I became my father through my father's own demise. I never told him that I understood until the day I couldn't anymore. I never told him that I forgave the life he chose behind that door. I would have chosen different, but I would have chosen him. Every time, every weight, every burden, and every The son inherits everything, including what he cannot say. I made an oath in a room with no windows to men who would hold it until they were dust. I placed my hand on a language of silence and swore to the things that a man swears in trust. Not God, not country, not law as they write it, but something more ancient than all of that weight. The code that was handed from father to father, the oath that arrives at the end, never late. They say oaths are broken, they say codes are fiction. They've never stood in the room where it's real. This is the oath I was given and kept. This is the code that I carried while others slept. This is the weight that I chose at the door. This is the life of a man who swore not to be righteous, not to be clean, but to be what he said and to mean what he means. This is the oath and it holds me still past the grave of the men and past the code of the will. Have seen men break it, I have seen what it costs. I have watched the unsworn build their houses on frost, and I have seen them collapse when the season came cold, because a man without an oath has nothing to hold. Not judge of others, just keeper of mine. The oath doesn't care about your bottom line. This is the oath I was given and kept. This is the code that I carried when others slept. This is the weight that I welcomed at the door. This is the life of a man who swore. When they ask what I stood for, I won't have to think. It was never about the empire or the power or the drink. It was about the word I gave in a room with no light, and the fact that 40 years later I kept it tonight. When it cost me everything, I kept the oath. And that kept the oath. That is my everything. of a man who never put the oath down, never put it down.